Hey guys, this is Alex.
And this is Drew.
And today on the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast, we're going to keep on going with issue 6 of Dr.Doom by Christopher Cantwell, Salvador LaRocca, and Guru Effects. Let's go. Hello, fellas.
Hello.
How goes it?
It goes well.
We've started this thing where we try to record at least 2 episodes whenever we get together. It definitely helps for the unexpected can't make it weeks where those do happen. So this is the first time we're recording in a couple weeks.
Yep.
But we just released 45?
45.
We're creeping up on 50.
Speaking of 50, you still got time to send us some questions or comments to turn episode 50 into a Two-Man Comic Book Club mailbag episode.
Yeah, how lame will it be if nobody... We can just send in questions to ourselves.
Just make up questions.
Yeah, make up fans.
So let's just say it will be a mailbag episode.
Whether those are
where the questions come
us.
from, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's everybody been up to? I know what you've been up to.
Yeah. I've had a busy couple weeks. I have years later finished the Arrowverse. Well, finished. I mean, I'm caught up to the currently released episodes, 590 of them or something like that.
Do you feel lighter?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like you have to. Even more so, though, you've caught up to something else.
Yeah. It's funny, like 600 episodes, but even more important, you watched 12 of these other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, yes, I finally watched The Mandalorian.
Again.
And it is...
More and more claps.
It's a wonderful show.
Yeah.
When did those actually go live?
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got another one this Friday.
Yeah, I watched them all in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
And also, I've been reading... I read a new series, not a series, but a little mini event on DC that we might end up covering.
Oh, yes. What have you been reading yet?
A little Batman Flash action. The Button. Talking about, I think it's how the Watchmen kind of get folded into the DC universe proper.
Right, because I think a lot of people wouldn't know that the Watchmen have not always been a DC property, and they've relatively recently been dropped heavily in there. Like they went main event with it.
I was curious, so I wanted to read Doomsday Clock, which I think is where it actually happens. I read the first issue of Doomsday Clock, and I was like,
That's an event, if you didn't know.
Yeah, sorry.
A DC event.
I'm going to go back a little bit. And then I found The Button. And I was like, hey, this would be perfect. We've been looking for some other DC titles to cover. And I read that. And then I backed up to The Watchmen. I've seen the movie. I think I've read the comics before, but it's been so long. So I'm basically working backwards. But once I've finished the actual Watchmen, then I found a reading order. I might start checking those off, so that I can work my way up to legit Doomsday Clock.
What do you think about the movie?
I remember liking it a lot whenever it first came out.
I love it.
And I went in watching it knowing nothing. I bought it. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I was like, oh, I've heard this is important. So I bought the DVD and watched it. And I was like, I think that was before I started, or maybe that's what started kind of my interest in the old heroes. Like, I love the concept of the Justice Society. Just a bunch of a ragtag group of people coming together. Maybe they have superpowers. Maybe they don't. Maybe they've got a little bit of superpower, but they're just like going out and punching Nazis and stuff like that. And that's all it is. I mean, there's no they had bad guys.
Right.
But they weren't like cosmic events.
Yeah.
It was like, let's take care of this city problem or this countrywide problem. And then, Superman, even though he's been around forever, you see the Justice League and they're doing these gigantic things. And I feel like the Watchmen you got the Dr. Manhattan who's capable of whatever he wants to.
Right.
But I like the idea.
The core.
Yeah. There's just like a bunch of guys and gals who got together because they wanted to punch some bad guys.
Yeah. You've seen The Watchmen, I'm sure. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. That is such a polarizing film. So there's the diehard graphic novel Watchmen fans who just, understandably so, it's like an incredible, iconic graphic novel at this point. But I've never seen so many people complain about how accurate the movie is to the book.
Oh,
You always
compared to
hear
that, yeah.
like, the book's better, insert, Harry Potter film or whatever. Like, the book's better. There's more detail in that. Why don't they just do what was in the book? And Watchmen sometimes, like, literally shot for shot, like composition of the comic panel.
That's what I'm noticing
recreated inside the movie.
as I read it. And I'm just
And
like,
it's
yeah.
a gorgeous film. For those that haven't seen it, it is rated R, and they earn their R rating. So probably not for you if you don't watch that type of stuff. But for like film nerds, especially, like, it's a gorgeous film. And they tell the same story that's told in the graphic novel. I think for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it way different or?
No, everything's the same except for the very end.
Right. I
Very
knew
end
that
is a
much.
big change.
Right. But I mean, maybe that's where people are
maybe.
up in odds, or. But it's really good. So
I also had a couple others that I've read. Earlier, you probably don't care about my reading habits, but I set a goal to read more novels this year, and I got to a point where I realized I wasn't going to reach my goal. So instead of picking crappy short novels to read, I've been reading nothing but comic books when I go to bed for the last month or so. So I also read I finished one series and started a second one that's out on DC. There's Multiversity. I think I've talked about it a little bit. That one's really cool. I think it's worth us at least talking about, like, condensing all 8 into a one-off
totally
episode
down.
at some point. That's really good. If you dig the idea of multiple Earths, like if you actually stuck around all the way through the Infinite Earths crossover episode, then you might enjoy Multiversity. There's another one called it's a banner on DC, Tales from the Dark Multiverse. And there's a sweet one from Batman in the future. And there's one that I read first, The Death of Superman. But these are like the other corners of the dark multiverse where things go bad and they keep going bad. So it's like, you don't read these expecting a happy ending.
right.
I mean, I'll just give a quick blurb. Tales of the Dark Multiverse, Death of Superman. Lois Lane is just distraught. And she's the one who runs into Eradicator, who is there to kind of help bring Superman back around. And she takes his powers. And she just goes and just unleashes her wrath on everybody who didn't help or who didn't help enough.
Wow.
And it's dark.
You like it? That was good.
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've been reading, yo. What you been reading, yo?
I finally finished one of the major Iron Man arcs.
Nice.
2 nights ago, I think. So like I said, I've been reading Iron Man arcs, like several of them, because the most recent one I had read, I think the majority of, is the Riri Williams Ironheart, where she takes over and Tony Stark actually is her AI. Tony Stark's dead in that current universe. So I just finished Dan Slott's original run of I think it's his first stab at Iron Man. It's called Tony Stark Iron Man. That was like 18 issues or so. It's wild. Like, he's like with us or not. So in Riri Williams, he died because of the events of Civil War II. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Superheroes die.
Yeah.
And come back all the time, but he comes back. But they're like acknowledging that the method by which he came back, he's kind of been recreating and like replacing parts. So now there's like this question that he's asking himself, and he's feeling like this existential crisis: that is he actually Tony Stark anymore? Because there's not really anything that's original left, like including like his conscience, like was re-uploaded from like an AI that he saved. So basically, like, the current argument, at least what I'm reading, is Tony Stark isn't alive, but also this thing that kind of is him is, and he's dealing with that heavy thing. You know, you can imagine, like, if you slowly replaced every single part of your body, including like physical and mental and just, whatever else we want to argue makes up the entirety of a human being. Like, are you still you, or is that version dead?
Yeah.
That's what he's dealing with right now. And because of that, I'm on Dan Slott's next run of Iron Man, which is Iron Man 2020, which has Arno Stark as Iron Man right now because Tony's, well, whether you think it's him or not, this version of it is just like, I can't. So I think this leads up to the next run of Iron Man that is by Christopher Cantwell, who's doing this Dr.Doom run that I'm trying to read, which I've been buying the floppies for. Cool. Which perfect transition. I just got my next couple issues in that I wanted to show our fans. This is issue 3, the A cover, just the regular one that everybody gets. So I always try to get this. If you can't see that, I'll let Drew put this up on his. And I'll also, if it doesn't look very good in post, I'll just throw it up on the screen too. But this one, I bought 2. I typically don't buy 2 of everyone, but if there's a cool variant. So this is also issue 3. But for some of the comics, they've been doing they are starting to do a Native American like history awareness thing. I forget the exact title, but this one's really cool. So they did Iron Man with like this very cool Native American art style. It's really cool. So that one's just going to be a pretty one on display that I probably won't even read.
Yeah.
It's the same contents as the other one, but
It's cool.
yeah. Other than that, I'm reading for a potential Vision story that we're thinking about covering in an upcoming episode. So stay tuned if you're interested in something like that. I've read it before. I actually have the floppies. And there's Rue.
Hello.
We were wondering how long it would take before Rue hopped up on the table. We'll see if she survives the episode or not. Rue, put your tail down. You're offending the audience.
We just went up a rating.
This suddenly became 2 Man After Dark. Oh, don't look at it. We want to throw her down. Rue, you're the worst. We'll decide later if we're leaving all this in or not. Everybody's going to unfollow because I just called my cat the worst. Yeah.
And if you're listening on the podcast, you're missing out. So go check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, my very cute and
Making a second
slightly
lap.
obnoxious cat is on the table, ruining everybody's shot.
Putting the Rue in ruin.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Ruining.
You're not ruining anything, but I'll put you down.
We'll see how long that lasts. She'll discover there's negative space to fill.
Have you been reading anything, Torrance?
Yeah.
I'm still reading Thinner by Stephen King.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
Still enjoying that.
I have to add more things to my list. Yeah. There's not enough time.
No, there's not.
To do anything at all.
We need somebody to contribute, I don't know, a cool million? Just donate $1 million to the 2 Man Comic Book Club podcast.
That'd free up my time pretty well.
And then we can read a lot. And
right.
Can put out more episodes.
Yeah. If you support us, if you really like us, you'll give us $1 million.
Yeah.
That's the majority. I mean, it's a lot of reading, but it's not a very diverse. I'm not jumping across a bunch of different series right now.
I've had the realization recently that I haven't read as much DC as I want to, and I've got the app, so I'm just jumping around. Because I feel like the diversity of my knowledge is probably wider in Marvel now than it was in DC in terms of like I've seen more Marvel characters across time and space than I have DC because I keep coming across people like who's that? And it's probably because of the Arrowverse, like going whole hog onto that. And I'm just like, okay, now let's see these guys in print.
Right.
So I'm just like jumping around and trying to learn more about that. So yeah.
I know what you're talking about, like getting deep into the universe. It feels you get sucked in further whenever you relate to even these deep cut characters that are like, there are going to be some even in this book that we're going to talk about in a little bit that I saw them from a series that I read weeks ago. I was like, oh, okay. That connects some dots.
Like, I was able to pull even more interest from the last season of Flash that was out because I don't think I'm spoiling anything here. Probably but not. There's one of the villains is Dr. Light, who was like a significant villain in the one that leads up to like Infinite Crisis, Identity Crisis, all that stuff, like big time. I mean, it was a different take. It was a woman in Flash. It was a man in comics. But I was just like, I kept reading like, oh, is that what Dr. Light's actual powers are? That's cool. Right. Except he's a terrible, terrible, terrible person.
Right. But it's cool because it's the same effect that you get from familiarity of a character with the MCU and why
Yeah.
they nailed so many things. Just like recognizing a character, even if it's from one thing you've read, suddenly just your mind fills in the gaps of everything else, and you have like this relationship and this familiarity with the character. It adds a lot to the experience, no matter what the medium
Speaking
you're
of
putting
that,
it in.
I've got a question about The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to spoil anything with this.
Spoilers if you're not completely up to date on The Mandalorian.
I'm doing my best not to spoil. It's just more of a question. Okay. The first episode of the second season, was that Anakin's pod racer?
It's been argued that it was like pieces of it.
like one of the
I've
things.
seen online arguments that it was.
And R5, that was the one
Yeah, I think so.
that they took, that he was going to take, and then the motivator blew
I think
or whatever.
so.
Have you? There was actually a group of short stories that were released a while back that I read from a certain point of view, where they took different characters. Like it was basically telling you the story of A New Hope from the B characters that were there.
Cool.
So there was like a whole story about R5.
Yeah.
That R5 and R2 had talked, and R5 knew that R2D2 was carrying something for the rebellion, and he sabotaged himself on purpose because he knew that R2 needed to make it to Anakin.
Right. They're in the best way pulling out all the. It's not even deep cuts anymore. They're tying Mandalorian, especially after the most recent episode. It is firmly in the lore of Star Wars. Like they're connecting all these dots. They're not just with obscure things either. Like, I mean, everybody knows at this point that Ahsoka is going to be in the series, probably next episode.
Have you finished Clone Wars yet?
I haven't.
Oh, I think I already texted you that. You said
we
you've
were
seen
talking
some
about
of
this
Clone
earlier. I've
Wars,
seen a
some
lot of it,
Rebels.
of
And I
both.
said, that's right. And I was like, you will watch Clone Wars next. I have spoken.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which made me happy because now you can say I have spoken and it means something to you. You get the references. Yeah. I have thoughts and theories. Maybe we'll do soon just a Mandalorian episode and just talk about speculate.
Maybe after. I mean, we only got 4 episodes left.
I think so.
Right. So maybe we can do a
recap of the season.
Yeah, like speculate on what season 3 might hold.
Yeah, I think we close it. I think there's gonna be some cool stuff. Anybody else caught anything new? Any media stuff? I can't think of anything. They just confirmed that Deadpool 3 is a go. They just tapped the writers, which are, I think they're sisters who have been working on Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Really?
Which I think a lot of people are pretty excited about. Ryan Reynolds still there, and I'm very surprised about this and glad they're doing it. Deadpool is keeping its R rating, even though it's Disney Plus and going to be in the MCU. I also like that they did this. They did, which I still haven't seen, Once Upon a Deadpool, which knocked it all the way down to that. I think I heard they just had so much extra footage that they could get away with knocking it all the way down to PG-13, which way opened up the audience of people because, yes, it's definitely a not for kids movie. But they're keeping it. I'm very curious to see how they implement that into the MCU.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Feige is attached to the project. They can do cameos of him without going over the borderline with rated R stuff.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
I could ask off camera, but it's relevant.
Yeah.
Is there anything on that, like on Disney Plus, the Marvel 616? Is that worth? Is there anything on there yet? Is that worth watching?
Like the newest
I don't
stuff
know.
that they're putting out. I've heard that it's all available now.
I just saw a picture that said Marvel 616, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I should check that out. But I haven't run out of stuff to watch yet.
I'm a huge fan of Brie Larson from Community and other things. Glow, she did that as well. And she directed one of the episodes of that, so I'm really excited to check that out. I think it's
Brie
more...
Larson?
Not Brie Larson, sorry. I do that all the time. Allison Brie. Well, both of them are in Community.
On Community. I was like, you're kind of leaving one out.
I do that all the time. Well, I love
Marvel.
both of them.
Yeah.
But Allison Brie, sorry.
Okay, Glow. I was like, what is Glow? I've seen all of Glow, so now I remember.
It just worked out that both of them were actually in Community, though Allison Brie was a much more important character in that.
Yeah.
Excited to check that out as well. But otherwise, I don't know. Oh, this was big news. I don't think we talked about. Wonder Woman is on Christmas Day coming to HBO Max, straight.
And also select safe theaters.
Yes, I'm going to do my research and see if it's safe to go. I want to see that film in theaters. I miss the theater so much.
The
It is
theater.
far and
The
away.
theater.
Yeah.
What happened to the theater? That's from
It's-
White Christmas.
It's easily the thing I miss the most.
Yeah.
I don't miss people. I hang out with you guys enough. Katie's enough. That's fine.
People suck.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I don't miss you people. I miss some of you people. But if I can find, I'm going to call the theaters and be like, hey, I don't have to see it opening night.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can go to a time, especially if it's like during the day when people are at work or whatever, and it would be social distance, whatever, I'd probably go check it out. Maybe, I don't know. COVID cases are pretty bad right now, and a lot of people aren't taking it seriously. So, but at least it is coming out for HBO Max. It's not going to be a upcharge like Disney Plus did with Mulan. It's the same price. If you have a subscription, you got it.
That's cool.
So I'm excited about that. The only thing that kind of sucks about the HBO Max is and this doesn't affect everybody, they don't offer 4K streaming yet.
Oh.
So I have this awesome TV that plays everything in 4K, and it's not going to be the highest quality, which some people don't care about. I care about, like the director shot it in 4K and edited in 4K, and I want to see as much of the director's intent and the director of photography. Like somebody did all this work to make it look a certain way. I want to see it that way. So their plans, spokesperson for HBO Max says eventually they'll offer that, but right now it's just not something they do. I think that's it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Before we jump?
Maybe we'll take a quick break.
Yeah, and we'll jump right into Dr. Doom issue 6. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump right into issue 6. This is another one that I highly encourage, again, if you have not jumped on the bandwagon with us and joined us as a Marvel Unlimited subscriber, it's worth it. You're already listening. It seems like insane now that I think about it for somebody to be a big fan of this podcast and just like, I don't read comics.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I guess I listen to stuff on podcasts that I don't necessarily consume, but it's so much better. Like, it's a book club.
Yeah.
So jump in and read it with us, because this one is another case that we've already had one that we talked about how the flow of it is so art driven.
Yeah.
To like really grasp what's going on. And of course, if you're watching the YouTube video, we put a lot of that on screen, but it's not the same as reading it and then kind of going back and everything. So this one, again, just to reiterate, it's Christopher Cantwell, Salvador LaRocca, and Guru Effects. We have letterer VC's Corey Petit, cover Salvador LaRocca, and Guru Effects for this one. The variant was Mike Mayhew. Correct me if I butcher. There's one of these, the assistant editor, Shannon Andrews Ballesteros, or Ballesteros, yeah. Associate editor Alana Smith, editor Tom Brevoort, editor-in-chief C.B. Sobolski, and then, of course, Dr. Doom created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Did I miss one?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I think a graphic designer, Carlos Lau.
Okay.
Or Lau. All the font, those and the D's, they all get jumbled for
The
me.
D's have a little cutoff on the edge, so I'm pretty sure that's an O.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay, it's an O. Where, Drew, were we last episode? We're at last issue of this.
I don't know. Oh, we had just met on like Brothers Island, North Brothers Island, whatever that was. That was like where Blue Marvel and Herbie showed up, and Silver Sable and Victorious showed up, and then
Right.
Dr. Doom tracks down Fruzina,
Mm-hmm.
and then
That's right.
they're all fighting. Kang pops up, and then gets killed, and poofs back, and they're like, "By the blah blah blah, did I just die?"
Yeah, okay, so that's right. There was a big fight. Doom gets away, and then he has this little short monologue at the end to
Yeah,
kind of declare that Doom's going to Doom.
yeah,
He's going to do his thing. So now we find ourselves in Texas, 48 miles northwest of Terlingua. I think is how you pronounce that. And we see this train, and as we zoom in and get closer, we see that both Doom and Kang the Conqueror are
riding the rails.
They're riding the rails. They're hanging out in this open cart. It just looks like your typical graffitied up cart that is going through the middle of nowhere. And this is another thing where it pays to kind of like see the art and then just the progression of everything, because they're having this long conversation. And I don't want to like read it verbatim, but they're getting into I guess, more of a deeper, rich conversation that maybe like two friends or family members would get into more than. I mean, you kind of got a sense that since the conversations where Kang poofs in and out, that they at least talk and are past acquaintances, I think. But this one definitely like really dives into that relationship a little bit more than the previous comics have. So basically, Kang is like, when are we going to talk about? Yeah, when are we going to talk about it? And Doom kind of is playing hard to get, and he's like, talk about what? And he's like, our blood relation. And Doom's like, I don't see the point. And Kang just basically says, well, boredom. This will kind of help cure some of that. But they're going along. It almost, I'm trying to think of the best way to portray this. Like I'm gonna put some of these panels up here, but they're just riding the rails. Some other people that are trying to hitch a ride hop in on their cart at one point, and they,
good evening, my name's Tom, and then
they quickly bop that guy, and he's out of there. And we're just seeing them progress slowly through this. So I'm gonna hop through one of these pages, and then we find them sitting by a fireside now. And
I was thinking about, as I was flipping through today, I was like, it's funny. I mean, you see this in TV shows and movies all the time where you're having a conversation and all of a sudden you're miles away and it's happening again. And I'm just imagining, did they literally just stop the conversation after the dude tried to get on the train, and they're like, all right, let's stop until we get somewhere else more interesting to talk. You know,
because
I know
the
they're
location,
not going to be talking the whole time.
The location does change frequently, so you'll see that in some of these panels. But I mean, they just kind of pick back up. You know, it's nighttime now. There's a wolf or a coyote howling in the distance, and they're enjoying some coffee or something by the fireside, and they're kind of speculating about.
I think they're enjoying the coyote.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Ah, good catch. I didn't see that. Yeah, the coyote didn't make it, or some other animal.
Yeah.
But they're just chatting again, and they're kind of like speculating whether, like, how they're related, basically. Like, Doom's like, I've heard that you're Reed Richards' father. And King's like, I've heard that too, but he looks nothing like me. And then Doom's like, well, neither do I, because, you know, they're implying that they're related.
Yeah.
They go back and forth, and they're kind of like arguing over who could be each other's father. Again, without just literally reading you this comic, and also short of just putting every panel in there and be like, all right, read this, pause, now push play, and go all through it. A lot of the nuance of like the relationship and the conversation and like how it is actually perceived by each character is missed, in my opinion. So please go through and read this one. But basically, they're just kind of getting under each other's skin, and in a moment of like high tension, I think, at least this is the way I interpreted this, truck comes up. They've been walking this whole way. I think at one point they're mentioned like, man, why are we walking?
Yeah.
You know, we're basically gods almost. You know, what are we walking to this area? And Doom argues that we got to keep a low profile. And these two good old boys drive up in their old truck and essentially start making fun of their uniforms, and they're laughing at them. And Doom's had enough immediately after one of them calls him Steely Dan and just uses magic and explodes the truck. And Kang's like, travel carefully, huh? Keep a low profile. But anyway.
And then they find their way onto a boat of some sort. And they're still just kind of talking, you know, asking why, you know, I've explained I will conquer the world, you say, you know, so like wondering, why are you even with me still? And he's like, I'm just keeping tabs because eventually I rule this world. So I'm stuck here, you know, for whatever reason, I'm not going anywhere else. So I might as well stay close.
It is kind of weird. They're like, have a similar goal to kind of conquer everything, but they know that there's an order of operations, I guess, to how that's all going to play out. So they just kind of acknowledge that and then don't attack each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
And I mean, it's just more conversation. Like this one is seriously, you should just go check it out yourself. But before long, they're off the boat, and they're in some ruins of what looks to be Terlingua, Texas. And, you know, he's just talking about his plan. I'm going to be taken over. You know, I'm going to get my Latveria back, and I'll conquer everything. And then while they're still talking, a building behind them just explodes.
Yeah, it's definitely like a stark contrast because it's been so much conversation and text up to this point that it's just boom.
Yeah. And we got this guy. You said you looked it up. He's standing there with like a, I don't know, is this like a submachine gun? I don't know what's that's
Yeah.
called. Just a giant gun. And he's like,
Hold
Victor Von Doom, pleasure. Simcaria is very unhappy with you, and the fight is on.
Tori, will you confirm this? I think his name's Paladin.
That's what Doom calls him.
Yeah.
A few panels away.
Yeah. He's definitely not like some serious threat to either of them. I think, again, like he's just there for Simcaria. While he's looking that up, I will point out this one kind of nice comic relief panel back when they're on the boat, like before they get to this kind of desert ruins. They're talking and they start insulting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the thing where they're like, it's a little bit heated, but then they get legitimately like tickled at the insults.
The creativeness.
Yeah, and they just start laughing, and they kind of have a good moment. And they're after the laughter, Doom says, "I will destroy you, Kang," and Kang is like, "I will destroy you first, Victor." And then it just pans. So it is. I don't know. I think the overall point of this issue, I think, or at least for the front end especially, is to pull on or put on display the humanity of both of these characters. Like they, which is, you know, more compelling for the storytelling. I think it shows that even these people who even have stark contrasts within each other, you know, they have characteristics that I think the reader can relate to. Were you able to verify that, Tori?
It looks like it.
Yeah, kind of a purple
Yeah.
uniform. I'll throw him up on the panel or up on the screen. Anyway.
And then apparently Paladin's not alone, and this other dude comes in saying, "I see all, Doom. You cannot hide. I see all." And for those of you listening, his head is a giant eyeball, and he has a giant eyeball on his chest, and it looks like I guess that's probably just a red shirt. It's not muscles, like internal muscular structure.
So I reckon, like we were talking about this earlier, this is
I don't
until
know
a few
this
weeks
guy.
ago, like an unknown character to me. But I think they call him Orb. But he has the eye, the one in his chest is the eye of the Watcher, Iwatu. So
The Watcher that we saw earlier? No, that was the Witness. Okay.
that was the Witness, yeah. So the Watcher has this, if you're really eagle-eyed watcher of the MCU, he's even showed up there in a Stan Lee cameo. Stan Lee was sitting on a planet with a bunch of Watchers and kind of telling his story.
Yeah.
So every universe has a Watcher assigned to it to literally watch and record events. They're not to interfere. And Iwatu, I think is how you say his name, is the 616 Watcher.
Okay.
And several times he has interfered for whatever reason. So it's made some significant stuff. They typically don't talk. They have like giant heads, big bald space alien things. And during the original Sin event, which is what I read most recently, which takes place during that Jonathan Hickman run near the end of everything, somebody killed the Watcher. Somebody killed Iwatu. And I can't remember his name. It's killing me. I think it's the Orb or
It says Orb's a good bloodhound, so
maybe
I think
that
you're
makes
right.
sense. And Ruzbek.
Ruzbek.
But anyway, that ends up being a pretty significant event. Like when he gets that eye, he's able to like see all these things. I mean, it basically implies that all of the knowledge that Iwatu's seen over the years for every character, good and bad, was stored in that eye, and he was able to suddenly know the deepest, darkest secrets of every Avenger. You know, like even Captain America, who everybody's like, surely there's no dirt on him. You know, suddenly Iwatu knew something about him. But it was cool to see that character. But it was a little weird that he was such a significant big baddie in that show that they kind of downplayed him a little. I guess he's not quite as powerful anymore. After I think they knocked him down a few pegs after whatever the Avengers did to him in that event. But anyway, you can carry on.
So yeah, they're just fighting typical fights, and eventually they kind of knock him out. And I think they even make a comment like, "No, they're not dead. They're just essentially unconscious."
They make a quick work of them, as they should.
And a plane, little Cessna, single engine type thing, lands, and he walks up and he has this big black briefcase.
I guess that's an important point to point out. This whole time, at one point, Kang asks, "What are we doing?" And Doom basically says something effective like, "I've got another another ace up my sleeve. We're heading here.
So
Ace in the hole.
This whole time they've been trying to make it Terlingua because they have a drop off.
Right. And a plane flies over, as Drew mentioned.
Yeah.
Kang says more intruders, and Doom says my ace in the hole. So this is where this is where we've been going the whole trip.
And they kind of have this little conversation. He's like, this guy's just a straight shooter. He's like, somebody tells me to drop something off, I drop it off, and then don't ask questions. But for whatever reason, they get on the subject of kids. And this guy, like, he asks Doom, do you have kids? And Doom goes on these long things talking about his 2 kids that he's only ever had visions of.
Right.
But, like,
which just shows you how vivid those visions are.
the visions are enough that he's like, he goes on and, like, so I could read it, but I'm not going to bother. But it's like he knows these kids vividly. And the guy that walks away is like, no, sound like great kids or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, man, he is really buying in, connecting to this
Right.
being his world.
Yeah, I want to point out the whole reason they got onto that conversation is because this guy walks up and opens this briefcase, and this will be I don't want to say a deep cut because this is a significant item that is in this briefcase that I think a lot of people, if they haven't read much Fantastic Four, will have no idea about, which is kind of a contradictory thing to say. But he opens up, and inside this briefcase is the Ultimate Nullifier, which is a creation of Reed Richards that is like I'm 90% sure that was used in some of Jonathan Hickman's run for the Incursions level thing, like to help them like destroy planets. Like, I think he's used it. Will you actually look this up? It's the Ultimate Nullifier. And it's in this case. And once Doom opens it and looks at it, you see that he's surprised. I think it's like he knew that he was going to get something of value here, but he was caught off guard. And he says to this guy, who we never get his name, he says, you could have kept this and been the most powerful being in the universe.
Yeah.
And that's where the guy says, not for me. If I get paid and take care of my family, all I need. And that's where they go into their conversation about all their children. But after that, he flies off, and there's some horses there that were also dropped off at kind of this rendezvous point. And Doom's like, well, is that Chihuahua? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
The place? Yeah. He says, well, we ride to Chihuahua, and we will gain transport to Latveria there. I'm going home. And then suddenly, Kang pulls a gun on Doom and says, apologies, Victor, but I require the nullifier. It's like Kang immediately is like, also knows what this item is and how big of a deal it is. Did you find what it was, Tori?
Yeah.
I just don't want to misspeak on all the powers of what it can do.
It's the universe's most devastating weapon.
Right.
It basically has the ability to utterly eliminate any target the wielder chooses through a violation of the law of conservation of mass and energy.
And was it made by Reed Richards? Am I saying that right? I'm pretty sure that he created it. Or maybe Doom did, but I think it was Reed Richards. And I think it was in a Jonathan Hickman book.
Reed Richards is affiliated with it.
Okay.
But Johnny Storm retrieved the Ultimate Nullifier from Ta-2, the home of Galactus.
Oh, okay. So it comes from Galactus, which, I mean, just saying that it comes from anywhere Galactus opens up the universe pretty expansively regarding just how significant of an item it is. And this dude was flying it around in this little dumpy plane in a black briefcase. Like, it's for big Marvel comic fans that would have knowledge of that item. That's a jaw-dropping moment in such a kind of a casual conversation, almost a buddy trip feel of a comic book to just boom, Ultimate Nullifier. And there's a reason that Kang's like pulling a gun on him right now. Kang shoots him in the back.
Yep.
Doom hits the ground and is like in pain, like he's hurting, but he picks up this like sharp shard of metal. It's hard to say, sharp shard of metal. And as bad guys do, Kang's kind of doing his monologue, his bad guy monologue over the top of everything. And Doom gets up real quick and stabs Kang in the neck, and it shows it.
Yeah.
And there's blood going everywhere, and he died last episode.
Yeah.
So there stands to believe that, I mean,
It's not permanent.
it's not permanent, but that there's several versions of Kang hopping around.
Yeah.
But Doom just kills him right there. He was like, I thought, There were times where I thought that we were brothers.
We
but
kind of assume he's killed because the next panel, Doom's by himself. Did I say Doom's killed? We kind of assume Kang has been killed. I don't know that we ever that we find out.
I'm not sure. At least not in this not in this issue.
Specifically because we got one page left on Marvel Unlimited.
Right.
At the time of recording, which is like a few days before Thanksgiving 2020. So
yep. I think early next month the next issue is going to come out.
So
but
we can talk about that after.
Do you want to read this last bit? Kind of describe. All we see is he kills him. He says goodbye, Kang.
Yeah.
And then Doom's on horseback.
Which
and there's text.
Throwback to the very first episode where we talked about it, and I was talking about how on the Dark Tower the robots looked like Dr. Doom. This made me think of it even more because those robots rode into battle on horses. Yeah. I can't remember if they were real horses or robot horses. Do you remember?
I can't remember either.
As somebody who's not read Dark Tower, does this look just like a scene maybe
from
something?
And that's exactly it too, because he's in a desert.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this, I feel like, you could have just given him more of a snout, and that could have been from the Dark Tower.
Right.
Just a picture.
And then there's a quote from Stephen Crane. Do you want to read that?
You have it pulled up. Go ahead. And
okay.
You're a better reader than me.
I did learn to read good. So Doom's riding off on horseback, Ultimate Nullifier in tow, and this kind of like piece of script paper almost is at the top with just a quote. There's no text from him. It says, "Black riders came from the sea. There was a clang and clang of spear and shield, and clash of hoof and heel. Wild shouts and the wave of hair and the rush upon the wind. Thus the ride of sin." And that's from Stephen Crane, 1895. Yeah. Which, over my head, I don't know what that... Do you know what that's from, Tori?
I don't.
No?
No, I'm familiar with Stephen Crane a little bit.
Right. So maybe I should look that up and it'll click a little bit more. Christopher Cantwell, assuming his readers are smarter than we are. And then...
Yeah, then we turn the page and we are in Chihuahua, Mexico, and Dr. Doom is on a payphone. I'm just going to go ahead and read this real quick.
Yeah, this is fine. I'll have this on the panel
It's
too.
short. He's talking. "Your black hole solution is simple. My guess is it's standing right next to you." And then it shows Reed Richards and Blue Marvel right there. It's like, "Brashear, the Blue Marvel, send him inside the antlion." And so basically sending him inside the black hole. He's like, Richards says, "An antimatter collision will just create more mass." And Doom cuts him off. He's like, "Listen, you idiot. Send him past the event horizon. He can generate a massive amount of negative energy to dissipate the whole. I know he's survived a nuclear explosion, so there's a chance the singularity won't incinerate him. Fare thee well, reprobate. Fare thee well." And then he hangs up. And I just like, I'm sure the math or the science makes sense to him, but basically he's like, yeah, just send Blue Marvel into the black hole.
To be fair, there's probably a good chance that he's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, the brass it takes to talk to Reed Richards like he's an idiot and then call him an idiot.
Yeah.
Bold. So I misspoke earlier. This was kind of like a prologue page or panel, set of panels. And then it's over. So at that point,
that's what I meant. Yeah.
As Marvel Unlimited subscribers reading that are fully caught up.
There are plenty of people out there who you may be listening to this. You already know what happens. We don't.
Yeah. Well, there's only one issue actually out as of today, at the time of recording, past this, that is actually, you can buy a floppy.
Oh, okay.
Issue 8 is about to come out right now.
Okay.
And then that'll be 3 more months and then you can read it. So maybe this is one that we'll hop back in.
Yeah, just to,
as it, I've been enjoying it well enough.
Yeah, I definitely want to read it. We'll just have to see if it fits the schedule or if we move away and just encourage you to continue reading on your own. We'll see. If you're like listening right now and you're like, God, just finish, that's not a good stopping point. Well, we don't really have a choice right now.
That's what she said. To go back and listen for that one. Talk about a cliffhanger though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like we have nothing unless we go find a floppy, and even then I doubt it's going to be resolved by issue 7. But Dr. Doom heading back to a war-stricken Latveria on the Sumerian border
with the most powerful bomb or anything on the planet.
Destroy whatever he wants. Like,
Yeah.
You want to kill Galactus, you want to kill everyone. And somebody like Dr. Doom, who, when you think about the trajectory of him mentally, has been toying with the idea of being a savior towards towards the entire planet has something that is solely meant for destruction.
Yeah.
For as much like passive conversation and kind of almost ground level character development that happens in this one, it's a pretty huge bomb to drop at the end of a comic book.
Yeah.
I think so anyway. So definitely
We have to
intrigued.
wait.
And we're back with our 2-man lightning trivia round where our questions are faster than Kang turned on Dr. Doom as soon as he saw that ultimate nail of fire.
Yeah.
He couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
1 minute they're jokingly insulting each other's mothers, and the next Kang's got some metal in his neck. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a little graphic.
That was graphic.
So for those of you keeping score, which I know you all are, you've got your scoreboards, your on the wall, an entire wall devoted to lightning round trivia, then you would know that I'm losing. Alex has like a point, and I think he also has 1, maybe 2 Tory points, which are the tiebreakers.
Yeah, I can't
So-
remember. I know I'm winning. I've got some combination of points.
Yeah. So with the Tory tiebreaker points, I suppose that means, technically you're supposed to give me a chance to win.
I will.
Oh, so you have to give me 2 points anyway. That doesn't change that.
Yeah, just the weight of the point. Or
So-
I can do separate questions.
That means if I ask mine now, if I ask mine first and you get it, does that mean you have to give me an opportunity to get 3 points?
I think so.
Do you have
Let me see if I
something?
can break it in. I just thought of a way to break it into 2.
It's possible that that's not going to be an issue. Though my question, because I'm nothing if not tricksy, I'm asking a question that is maybe perhaps a little bit of a trick question because I want to win.
Okay. I'll just ask them as you get them, if you get them.
Okay. So do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? I feel like I need to go
You have
first.
to go first, I think, just to
All right.
suspense.
Now, how do I word this?
So I already know that it is a trick question.
Yeah, it's not really a trick question, but
It's a tricky one.
yeah. Okay. So, how did Dr. Doom receive his PhD?
He is not actually a PhD,
Dadgummit.
so he did not receive one.
Do you know what happened?
I did at one point. I can make a guess from my psyche.
You knew enough. I feel like I have to give you the point, but he was expelled for doing
Oh, was he doing dark
experiments
magic
that,
things?
like, I think it was maybe the experiment that led to him. He was trying to somehow channel something to retrieve his mother from Mephisto,
Yeah.
and it blew up his face.
Yeah, that was oh, I didn't know that it blew up his face. I forgot about that.
Those two may be separate events,
It
but
sounds like it could be.
then he got expelled, and everything online was
I
saying,
feel like that was probably retconned at some point because they were like, "Oh, this guy's named Dr. Doom because alliteration sells comic
Yeah.
books."
but everybody online was like, yeah, he probably has honorary doctorates from Latveria
Well,
that he gave himself. And then they went on to joke about declaring themselves doctors.
even so, I'll still ask the questions just to give you a chance to tie.
Okay.
So we mentioned the original Sin event that the Eye of Watu, which knew a lot of things, a lot of the dirty things that all our Marvel heroes did.
Oh.
In that series, I've told you the answer to this before.
Oh,
and
crap.
really, you could, in theory, answer every question that I'm going to ask you. It'll be tough, though. In that series, a significant character loses something great of value. And I'm not talking about Iwatu losing his eye. Can you tell me who that character is?
I don't feel like this is it, but I'm going to guess it. Is this where Thor loses his worthiness?
That is correct.
Booyah!
There's question 1. Question
Sorry
2.
for being so loud.
How does he lose it?
Oh, well, that was whenever, what's his face?
You got to tell me who did it.
Why can I not think? Samuel L. Jackson. Nick Fury whispers something in his ear and he drops it on the moon
becomes
and he
unworthy.
can't pick. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that much.
That's right.
So we tie, but because you got Tory points. So and maybe he.
I have to give you a chance to win. I've got one more question.
Oh, you do have one more. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
For the suspense. Coming out of that series, because it happens. Well, so I remember I was reading a Thor run, and that happens in the original Vince, or original Sin event. Something significant happens after that Thor event. What is it? After that Thor run, as a result of what happened, of the answers that you just gave me. Sorry, the wording for that was all over the place. It's the worst run-on stuttered sentence ever.
It wasn't Secret Wars, was it?
No.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking the next thing that obviously happens is Natalie Portman picks up the, the thing.
Yeah, actual Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
That was the answer.
Wait,
Jane
what?
Foster becomes Thor.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's-
I figured if you made it that far, I'd
Yeah.
make it like you could actually do it.
Yeah. So that's what I meant.
Yeah, except you didn't answer that.
That was a joke. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We'll call that one a tie. I'm impressed that you got that many questions.
Yeah.
With some deep cuts. A tie.
If I hadn't gotten the first one, I wouldn't have gotten the second one,
Right.
and I wouldn't have been able to follow to the third one.
That's what I told you. You had a chance. I'll settle for a tie. Well,
This was the
it's
highest.
not over yet.
Yeah, this was the highest scoring round possibly ever because we both got our questions right.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a question?
I do.
Let's see if we can keep it going.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to keep going.
I don't care who gets it. I just want a point to be earned so that we
Yeah.
can. No wrong answers.
I'm a little worried. Well, I'll ask it and okay. It's another round of name that supervillain.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know enough about this character to know if this is an easy question or not.
It's fine. We're going to say the last names or say our names.
Yeah, buzz in with your name. This supervillain is a stepbrother of Professor Xavier. You
Drew.
Your name?
Yeah, I forgot my name. Drew.
I know who it is.
Oh yeah, Juggernaut.
It is Juggernaut.
Do I get extra points for saying his actual name
I don't know his
and
actual name.
how he got his powers?
Oh, that's
I'm just kidding. You
that
answered it.
was. I was going to start. If that was too vague, I was going to give some more clues, but I didn't know that was.
For bragging rights, his name is Kane Marco, and he gained his powers by stumbling upon the Gem of the Ruby of Cyttorak. Gem of Cyttorak.
Jim.
Yeah, which gave him the power of the Juggernaut, which makes him unstoppable. So a lot of people think he's a mutant, but he's actually not.
Yeah. No.
He just has the power of that gem. Very cool.
Wow.
So you're winning. Well, with the Tory point clause, which is a
Am I-
really jacked up system that we got to consolidate somehow.
We I feel like we're both winners because all the questions were
Yeah.
answered.
Plus some facts.
Yeah.
I like that question. I like this series you got going on, the Name That Villain.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. Cool. Well, anything else before you wrap this one up?
Remember, we'd love to get some questions for our mailbag episode.
Please. While you're telling them about our social media stuff, I'm going to look and see if we've had any comments recently.
You can find us as a podcast on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book with the number 2. Instagram, Facebook, 2Man Comic Book Club. Check out our blog, 2mancomicbookclub.blogspot.com. That is just enough of a tongue twister that I'm always impressed that I complete it. Or shoot us an email, 2mancomicbookclub@gmail.com.
Corey, what about you?
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at Torrance Watkins, TORRANCE, where I found out the other day I have been on that website for 9 years.
Wow.
That's almost a decade.
I know. I didn't even realize Twitter had been out that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has easily become my favorite social media.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
I got my 3-year notification just the other day.
Really?
Because I wasn't on social media at all while I was a teacher.
Yeah, it was impressive. You held out from social media for a long
Yeah,
time.
and then I was like, well, I'm a businessman. I'm a composer. I need to
Yeah, you got to be
allow
online.
people. So I joined Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that crap. Speaking of which, I'll just use that perfect segue. You can find me on Twitter at Drew Morris Comp. That's where I'm the most active. I would love to engage with you there. Instagram and Facebook, two-man. Wait, not what? Instagram, Facebook, Drew Morris Composer.
Myself can be found. What am I talking about? Nobody knows.
It's okay, yeah. If
can
they're with
find-
us this long, then they're true fans.
Right,
and
and
it's
they don't
okay.
care, yeah.
They're sticking around for the tag at the
I know
end
for
or
a
whatever.
fact, this is relevant, but come with me. I know for a fact that several people made it all the way through your deep dive on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they told me they were like into it. So I was like,
Huzzah!
yeah. You can find me on all social media at Alex Wayne Miller. Wayne is Wayne, just like Bruce Wayne because I am Batman. Well, one of them anyway.
Yeah.
Also, if you'd like to leave a review on iTunes, we'll read it. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us how much you love us. You can leave a 5-star and tell us how much you hate us, but it's got to be 5 stars for us to read it. Please do the mailbag. Also, I feel like now is a good time to do a little. No. We're too far down the rabbit hole, and a lot of people won't make it to this part. I think we'll announce it at the beginning of next episode. Stay tuned. Next episode, we're going to announce something really cool that we're doing for the holidays. There's your spoiler for those that made it this far. Cool. That's been it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
But